All right. So good afternoon, Sumit. You're right. So we're going to start today LO3, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, we've done the product and pricing, if not right? LO1 and LO2. Yeah? Hello? Today we're going to continue with the marketing mix, and we'll need to look at the role of place in marketing mix. So can you hear me? I have lost you. Okay. So I can't hear. Okay, I can't hear you. So we will start. What I'll do is we'll look at the role of the third marketing mix, which is called the role of place in the marketing mix. Okay, what we'll learn today is we'll look at the direct and indirect distribution channels to move products and services from the provider to the buyer. Then the second thing, we're going to look at the use of intensive distribution, selective distribution, and exclusive distribution in the marketing of products and services, okay, or marketing coverage and process. So let's look at 3.1. How do we analyze the role of direct and indirect distribution channels to move products and services from the provider to the buyer? So what we'll need to look at here is we need to look at what are the distribution channels. Now, if you know what the distribution channels are, we need to know why they exist, how they will reach, what's the use of these marketing channels, and how do they facilitate the flow and flow of goods and services to the supplier to the ultimate consumer. Okay, so what are the distribution channels? Now, these are the places, these are the channels we use to distribute goods and services through intermediaries, or sometimes they're called middlemen, and they exist there because to produce producers can't reach to their customers, so therefore they need to use these distribution channels to get their goods and services. Okay, these distribution channels are good in the sense that they provide efficient services to the marketing process. They will reach through different sources, and they'll facilitate smooth flow and create time, place, and possession utilities, because they have all these facilities. They have all these methods and procedures in place, so they will supply the goods and services needed by consumers. So therefore, we use these distribution channels. Okay, and because they are competent and they can reach the goods and services very efficiently and very effectively. Okay. Furthermore, they provide contacts, experience, and specialization and scales of operation, because they have all these services and all these facilities at their disposal. Are you back, Samit?
Yes.
Hello?
Sir.
Are you
yes,
back?
Sir, I'm...
Right.
Yes, sir.
I lost you for a minute. Okay, so we're talking about the distribution channels, right?
Okay.
And you know, of course, in your organization, you need distribution channels. You use those distribution channels, yes?
Yes. Sir.
What's the function of these distribution channels? Why do you use them?
We supply the products.
Yes, but why? Why do we use them? As we told you earlier
we use them to attract the customers. Satisfied.
No, but you don't sell the goods to services to the customers directly. You send it to the distribution channels. That is the wholesalers, for example, or the distributors or the agents, right? First, you explain to the to these people, you send the goods to them, don't you?
Yes. Sir.
Why do you send them? So they have resources, they have a smooth flow of goods and services, so they can have the stock in place, so they can supply the goods to the consumers directly, to the shops and so on. So then the customers will come to the shops to buy those goods and services. Okay. Now there are a lot of distribution channels we can use. For example, the producer, as yourself, you are a producer. You sell to directly to an agent. Then you can also sell it to direct to the wholesaler. Then you can sell it to the retailers, and the retailer sells it to the consumers. Is this correct? So the consumer is the person, the end final consumer. Okay, they get their goods and services through different channels. Okay, and the reason why you sell these goods distributors is because they have access to the market. They can have they have access to the warehouses. They can have access to the distribution network. So that's why they have maybe some kind of distribution network, in the sense that they have good transport, they have good links with the wholesalers, they have good links with the market. That's why you use them, and maybe they are cost effective, because if you employ lots of trucks, lots of distribution, lots of logistics, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because so this is why we use those distribution channels. Okay. Now let's talk about the direct distribution channels though. Do you know what it means? A direct distribution channel? What does it mean?
Yes, sir, which is from factory directly.
Okay, give me an example.
Or the outlet of factories also nice.
Okay, so factory outlets, right?
Dynas company having his own outlets.
Good, good. Okay, so you sell your ghee oil, cooking oil, direct to the factory outlet. So this is one way we can use our goods and services. We can distribute our goods and services by using direct selling point. Okay, lots of organizations, they use these direct selling points because they have their own shops, they have their own units. Okay, so you can go and the customers can go and buy them. But this is called the direct distribution channel. Now, what's the advantage of this distribution channel is there's no middleman, there's no intermediary involved. Okay, so for example, Adidas, they use factory outlets. IKEA, they use direct factory outlets where they don't employ any middleman. They don't need to pay their commission. They don't need to pay any salaries. They don't need to own any units, because they can direct it, to their own shops and make use of that. So go directly to the consumer then. Okay. What are the advantages for this direct distribution channel? Direct distribution channels, the advantages is you have a direct control of your market. Correct? Okay, so these organizations who have a direct distribution channels, they control the market themselves. They own their people, they own their employees, they know they're efficient, they know they are good, and anything that's needed to correct, or any changes that needs to be made to the marketing mix, they can do it quickly and efficiently. And you have lots of information from the market. You can have your own brand diffusion, you can have your own intermediary marks up retention, you can keep the profits, and you can sell the what you call the products cheaper. Okay, you can sell the products cheaper than employing a direct distribution channels. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, disadvantages for this thing is sometimes they are expensive, because you need to lay out initial investments, and you have to maintain your unit. You have to make sure that your unit is cost effective. You need to keep people employed, for example, there, and you need to bear their salaries. Okay, you need to make sure that they have enough work to be worthwhile employing them. Okay, and you need to make sure that you have a large market share to absorb investments and yearly costs. And there are other disadvantages. So therefore, when you are talking about the direct, when you own direct distribution channel, they have to be cost effective, they have to be cost efficient, they have to be in a point where your outlay is more, and you have to have more return. Okay, so you can't really afford not to let losses overburden you. Okay, So this is where you use your direct distribution channel. Indirect distribution channel, the second way we can sell our goods and services is use the indirect distribution channel. Now, these are the channels that rely on intermediaries or middlemen or other distribution channels like agents, for example. Okay. What are intermediaries? These are the people who are acting between yourself as producer and the consumer. Okay. These are the intermediaries. They are directly involved in the process of flow of goods and services from yourself to the consumer. Okay. And the good thing is they need to be employed because they should have a good what you call them, a large amount of consumers. They know that their consumers are large, so therefore they can afford to keep the goods and services in flow. Okay. So if you can see from this slide here, producer, we've got a producer, then we've got a wholesaler, then you've got a retailer, and the final consumer. So that's the channel one. When we are talking about the channel two, whereby we have a producer here, there's no wholesaler. You sell it directly to the retailer, and the retailer sells it to the consumers directly. So this is known as the indirect, okay, indirect distribution channel. Okay. For example, if you look at the look at this slide, for example, the wholesaler buys and stores large quantities of producers' goods and services and breaks them in bulk and delivers it to other retailers. So people like Levi's, for example, or Dove, for example, soap producers, Parker pens, for example, they kind of employ this type of channel, number one. Okay. The channel number two, whereby like examples like Tesco, for example, or Amazon or Next, they use channel number two because they can directly go to the consumer here, this producer to the retailer to the consumer. All right. So this is the distinction between channel one and two. Okay. What are the advantages and disadvantages for using the indirect channel? Now, the advantages for using the indirect channel is there are not many costs and risks involved in entering the market. So the advantage, one of the advantages, there are no costs and risks. Okay. The second advantage is you need to be able to know the market characteristics. And the third advantage is you need to know the consumer or customers' requirements and their behavior. Okay. This is when we need to use, or when we use the indirect distribution channel. The disadvantage, however, for using this indirect is that you have no control over the market. Okay. You don't control the market, and there's a lack of direct information from the market. You have maybe you don't have any research, or maybe you don't have any data. You don't have any contact with the end users. Okay. And maybe, you have a risk of substitution from other intermediaries. So there are disadvantages and there are advantages. So when you use your indirect channels, you make sure that your advantages outweigh your disadvantages. Okay. So what's the situation in your case? Which type of distribution
Indirect.
channel do you use? Direct one or indirect?
Indirect.
Indirect. So you don't employ any agents or anything like this?
No, sir, we having employees, but from producer, we use a warehouse to the wholesaler, and after
Right.
that it is moved towards the retailer and the consumers.
All right. Okay. So you apply the agents. Right. How do you choose a distribution channel? How, when you choose a distribution channel, it depends on the products. For example, it depends on your product. It depends on the market. It depends on your business. It depends your legal issues. So it depends a number of factors. For example, what type of product is it? Is it a technically complicated or complex product? Or is it a luxury item, or is it a low-cost item, or what's the image of your product? Okay, so the nature of nature of the product is very important, in the sense that it depends on the type of product you are selling. Okay, so if it's expensive, it's a very heavy item, it's a very specialist item, you may not employ, for example, agents, or you may employ agents depending on what you want from, what's the nature of your product. Okay. And also the second factor, when you're choosing a distribution channel, it depends on the market, for example, geographical distribution, or the extent and nature of competition, the channels used by your intermediaries, and then depending on your market, is it near, near or far, or local market or national market, yeah, correct. And the third factor,
Yes.
as we said earlier on, is the business, the size and scope of business. You might need to employ, different people, and depends on your nature of the market, depends on the nature of the business, depends on the nature of the size and scope of your business. Can you afford the internal sales force, or you can't afford to pay the internal sales force, or do you need to, use the other people's network because they have already distribution channels, and they have already control over the other distribution channels. Maybe they have a more specialist sales service, so that you can use their channel. Depends on the business. Okay. And other thing is the legal issues. What are the limitations on sales? For example, what are the risks if an intermediary sells the product to an inappropriate consumer? Okay, so it depends on the nature of product, nature of business, some legal issues, maybe arrangements between yourself and the other intermediary agent, and so on. Okay, so when you are choosing a distribution channel, you need to look at different factors, right?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, okay, so this is the 3.1 we were talking about this year, when we are using the role of direct and indirect distribution channels. It depends on the nature of product, depends on whether you use the distribution channel as direct or indirect, advantages and disadvantages. And the other factors are looking at the nature of the market, the nature of the product, the business, the legal issues, and so on. Okay, any questions so far?
No, sir.
No. Okay, now 3.2, which looks at the the use of intensive distribution, selective distribution, and exclusive distribution in the market coverage of the products and services. So we need to look at the the second assessment criteria, which is to look at the use of intensive distribution, selective distribution, exclusive distribution. Now here we need to look at the distribution intensity, i.e. It depends on the scale of distribution network, as well as the appropriate selection of a location, i.e. how many number of intermediaries through which a manufacturer distributes its goods. So there are different different things we need to look at. How many how many intermediaries, for example, a manufacturer distributes to. Do you use many, or you use only a few? Right? Depends on your distribution density. Is it like intensive distribution, i.e. in distribution means very intensive distribution, means distribution through every reasonable outlet available. Okay, or the distribution through to make sure that the product is available as many outlets as possible, and prepared for consumers, pharmaceutical products, and automobiles, spares. So when you're using the intensive distribution, you want to make sure that your products are available through many reasonable outlets as possible, and is to make sure that the product is available in as many outlets as possible. And also the intensive distribution is to make sure that your consumer gets the product as and when they require. So for example, this applies to when spare parts, for example, car parts or pharmaceutical societies, because the medicine is required for patient very quickly, for example, so they don't run out of stock. Yeah. So therefore, in these circumstances, you need to use a distribution which is known as the intensive distribution. Okay. And selective distribution is to look at when producers select a few outlets, okay, to keep the products, because like yourself, maybe, your ghee, for example, doesn't have to use the intensive selection or selective distribution, right? You don't use the intensive selective distribution. You use the selective distribution only because the products, are, even though they run place, people can still wait, but for medicine, people can't wait, okay, and so on. So in order to use this selective distribution, you select a few select outlets to keep your products. You select these outlets based on their image, based on their reputation, based on maybe their financial strengths, or maybe based on their credibility, or based on their previous record, correct? Distribution channel,
Yes.
selective distribution. So you select people, and you make sure your product is sold through them, because they are provide a good distribution cost. Maybe also they have a kind of a lower cost, for example, or maybe low commission rate, for example, or preferred commission rate, okay? Or depends. It depends how you select, okay? So you select a few, not many, okay? The third one is the exclusive rights or exclusive distribution. Exclusive distribution is where you only select outlets, yeah, they have exclusive right to sell your products, nobody else, which is your very highly selective choice of outlets. And these are outlets that are set up by the companies yourself. For example, you have selective outlet yourself, and you use that kind of channel, okay? You want to close watch and control on the distribution of their products. So when you use your exclusive distribution channel, you want to make sure that you keep a control, tight control, keep a control watch on your products, okay, and how they are distributed to the consumers. And it will be employed when you want to obtain more dedicated and knowledgeable selling, okay, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is when we are using the dedicated exclusive dealership. So for example, Toyota Corolla has their own exclusive distribution network. They select only a few of the garages they will sell their products through, okay? They don't sell the products through all of the garages, okay? So this is how they can use, because the control of checking their knowledge, make sure their stock is available, making sure that the service is provided, making sure that the products are sold as they require, okay? So so these are some of the distribution these are some of the distribution channels we can use. So it's a very quick session today. We need to look at the role of place. So role of place is to make sure that you have your own selective product through distribution channels that you feel comfortable with, okay, that you feel will do the business for you. There are only two learning assessment criteria here: the role of direct and indirect distribution channels, and the role of intensive distribution, selective distribution, exclusive distribution channel. So it's very quick two type of assessment criteria, okay? So you look at these distribution channels, and how you apply it depends on the nature of your product, nature of your business, nature of your market, okay? The bigger the market, the more complicated the distribution channel. The smaller the market, maybe the smaller the distribution channel, and depends on what type you want, direct or indirect, So I think that was a very quick lecture today, yeah?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
So if you any question, or do you understand this distribution channel, the function of the distribution channel, and advantages and disadvantages, and why we use these?
Yes, sir. But sir, who is the middleman?
Who is the middleman? Middleman means the person who is acting as a commission agent between the producer, like yourself, and the final consumer.
Okay, right.
These are the, if you look at this slide, these are the middlemen: agent and wholesaler, right?
Yes.
Agent, wholesaler, retailer, right? These are the people who are middlemen. They charge you commission. So if you sell the goods from a producer, you sell it to the agent, he will sell it to the wholesaler, or wholesaler will go and buy it from the agent. Okay.
Yes, sir.
The wholesaler will collect goods and services from the agent. Agent will charge some commission, or will sell it a bit expensive than yourself. And then the wholesaler keeps a lot of goods and services. Then these people, retailer, i.e. shopkeepers, the shopkeepers will collect it from the wholesaler. So the wholesaler will put up their own markup and charge to the retailer. When the goods are sold to the consumer, the retailer also charges profit from the consumer. Okay. So everybody is adding their own profit on top of. So suppose your product costs you 500 rupees or 2,500, then this person, agent, will charge another maybe 50 rupees. Then this wholesaler may charge another 50 rupees. Then the retailer may charge it another 40 rupees. So 50 plus 50 plus 40, 140 rupees. And then the consumer will have to pay for 140, maybe 150 rupees on top of your product. So your total cost of your product may be 2,540 or 50 rupees by the consumer, correct?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Yeah, so everybody charges their own price. Everybody puts up their price by the product. So they charge commission on top of this. So these are all people who are in the middleman. Okay. If you don't employ these middlemen, then you can have your own direct selling point, right? You can sell it directly to the consumer when you have your own shop. For example, in every city you have your own shop, or every city you have 2 or 3 depots, right? And they collect it from there. The consumers collect it from there. No expensive. You don't pay 140. The consumer doesn't pay 140 rupees extra. They will buy your product cheaply. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Sometimes these manufacturers, have you heard of Lawrenceburg? They who make suiting cloth in ATHE.
No, sir.
No, the Lawrenceburg is a factory in district ATHE, right? It manufactures clothes, wool clothes, suits. Okay. Shalwar kameez and pant coats. They produce lots of clothes, and they sell it to markets in Pakistan. They sell it to England. They sell it to other countries, right? And they have their own shop. Sometimes they will open a shop in their own factory. They have a shop there. Maybe they have also a shop in probably Lahore or Karachi. So people can go and buy directly from there, because I bought some clothes from there in Lawrenceburg long ago. Okay, so they have a direct channel. Okay, they have their own shop there, and people go and buy them. Okay, and similarly, for example, Bata boot shops, Bata shoes or service shoes, they have their own shops. Yeah, they directly sell to their sellers, right? Maybe they don't employ their agents. Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So what we considered, we only looked at two. We only looked at two learning assessment criteria today, and it's a quicker lecture today. Okay. Any question? Any other things that you need to ask?
No, sir.
No, so this is pretty quickly. The role of place in the marketing mix is to look at the role of distribution channels and why they're important. So when you are employing the distribution channel, you need to look at their cost and their advantages in terms of market share. And is it worth employing a market agent, or is it directly sell? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. If you have no questions, we can see tomorrow.
Okay, sir. Right.
Inshallah. Okay. Thank you for joining. And look after yourself. Okay. Thank you. That was a quick lecture for today. Bye-bye.
Bye.